Islam, Shalom, Hola, Aloha, Bonjour, Assalamu Alaikum, Osio. It's your brother Zach Bay, Indigenous American Moor, coming to you live in full effect. Thank you for joining me. Like, share, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell down below so you can be notified whenever I'm dropping new content. Leave a comment down below, interact with me. Thank you, I really do appreciate your viewership. Let's jump into another one. Today, I want to speak a little bit about what's been happening with the FEMA organization and the lack of aid that Americans get here in our own country. All right, so just to break it down simply from the evidence I've seen from past and to the present, just using historical facts and data as a guide to pretty much predict how the future might be. As far as I've seen, FEMA is not coming to help you, fam. Like, if your area is ever hit with a natural disaster, hurricane, earthquake, tornado, tsunami, wildfires, FEMA is not coming to save Americans, fam. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of wild because that's pretty much supposed to be set up in order to help assist people here in the homeland. That's like people who need assistance, people who need help to rebuild, to house, to feed, clothe, like the basics of the basic essentials. But they seem to be running out of funds. They seem to be lacking resources. How? Well, it seems to be pretty much because of the migrant crisis. So funds have been allocated from the FEMA program to help devastated communities here in the homeland in America, but those funds have been allocated to help migrants who are allegedly political refugees, people who have like some type of refugee status, foreigners, So a lot of those funds have been allocated to help these people out who are influxing into our country, and there is not enough funding to help Americans. Donald Trump said it recently about Hurricane Helen, but let's talk a little bit about this happening historically. One of the biggest crises to happen here in America was Hurricane Katrina, back in like the early 2000s. So Hurricane Katrina happened. It was devastating. It devastated the entire area. Aid from FEMA didn't come until days later, fam. Days later. There was a very, very slow and sluggish response. It seems certain communities are neglected, a sort of benign neglect. And resources didn't seem to be rushed there at all. So that community was being devastated for days before an organized effort from this country's government. And honestly, one of the best clips I've seen, I remember watching this live on TV back in the day, but when a lot of the celebrities were getting on the broadcasting and doing like all these humanitarian aid efforts, I remember Kanye West, now currently going by Ye West, got on TV and straight up said to the American people, George Bush does not care about black people. And I'm like, yo, that was one of the realest moments ever right there. That pretty much let all the people know exactly what was going on in pretty much the political arena when it came to sending help and aid to certain communities. The Moors of America, so-called black and brown people, the indigenous people of America, aid was not coming to help them until something like that was said on national TV and there was a major uproar and outcry. All right, so I will always respect Kanye for saying that when he did. But that was one of the most realest moments ever right there. Speaking truth to power. When the Hurricane Katrina disaster happened, people were displaced and dispersed all over America. You know, like people's homes were gone. People's ancestral homes were gone and destroyed. It caused so much damage. They had to pretty much they pretty much had to reconstruct that entire coastal area. But yeah, FEMA wasn't rushing to help those people, but you know, it has to be organized by the powers from higher up. So it has to come from, you know, a presidential order, you know, state of emergency type stuff. But you know, when that happened during Katrina, I'm not sure if a lot of people took notice, but I want to say enough people took notice to realize that they didn't get help and aid as fast as they could have. And a lot of people were saying it's because of the way those people look, you know, their complexion, things of that nature. Moving right along. A few years back, about a year and a half ago, so the Maui wildfires happened. All right. So these fires happened in Maui. Not exactly sure how they happened. It was a lot of talk about DEWs, direct energy weapons. There was a lot of talk about that during the time, and how a lot of the burn scarring was very suspicious. Some of the automobiles that were melted was very suspicious. But apart from that, we're going to talk about the aid that the people received or really did not receive. People lost their ancestral homes. A lot of territory was destroyed. People were forced into the ocean in order to escape the flames that were burning. There were roadblocks set by the police in the area that would not let people evacuate safely. So the police and local authorities actually blocked and trapped people in there in order for them to get burned to death, and they had to actually escape into the ocean in order to flee those flames. The aid that these people received, I believe there were reports of people only receiving like $700. Celebrities like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Oprah did the humanitarian aid efforts, you know, the commercials or whatever, or the ads in order to try to raise awareness and funding for that. And they got a lot of backlash for that because they have properties over there, and it seems like a lot of the wealthy people's properties, pardon me, somehow did not get affected by those fires, which is very peculiar. There was talk about a blue type of shade of a color being used on the roofs that could potentially divert the direct energy weapons, you know, things of that nature. But that could be a topic for another video. Let me know down below if you would like to hear more about these DEWs and exactly some of the details that happened over in Maui if you have more questions. But the aid that these people did not receive, they couldn't rebuild their homes with a $700 check. Of course, they did get other aid from FEMA, but of course, FEMA was slow. The resources seemed to be tied up because, of course, you know, the war efforts and things of that nature over in the Ukraine and in Israel. We were sending massive funding over there instead of actually helping out the residents of Maui and getting them the resources that they needed and to help them to rebuild. And then apart from that, there was also claims of many children going missing during those Maui fires. Busloads or shiploads of children that were evacuated seem to have went missing during that time. It's very concerning, because when I think about that, I also think about the strike that just recently happened, and I'm seeing clips and videos of people speaking on that the dock workers at the ports, when they went on strike recently this week, there was talks that employees have been hearing the screams and the cries of people inside of those shipping containers while they're working on in those ports, either being imported or most likely exported from the United States. I don't have any first-hand knowledge of that. I've seen a few clips and videos of people talking about that information. I would really love to see a interview, maybe like, you know how they'll obscure the voice and not show the image of the person who's telling the story, maybe like a whistleblower. I would love to get first-hand accounts of a whistleblower, maybe even video evidence of these screams and these cries being heard inside these shipping containers. That would be very, very interesting information in order to, you know, stop this human trafficking and things of that nature. Because a lot of times when these natural disasters or these accidents happen, these emergencies, these like state of emergency events, when a lot of this stuff happens, there's so much moving parts, there's so much confusion, that people tend to fall in between the cracks. People can go missing. It's just very, very concerning that children have been reported to have been heard screaming and crying, and that children went missing during the whole Maui fire crisis last year. Okay, so moving along. More recently, Hurricane Helen. They say areas of Southern Virginia, North Carolina, other areas along the coast were devastated and hit by it. I've been hearing speaks of a town called Asheville. People have said it's a historic sundown town, and that town was completely wiped out, and that it's some type of divine judgment or something like that. People have been speaking of that. I've actually seen more than one clip on how that is a historic sundown town, and that area deserved to get like wiped off the map and things of that nature. I'm not exactly sure if that had anything to do with it. I also heard like not a report, but I've seen a clip on someone speaking. They actually also showed a document about maybe some sort of excavation effort that's supposed to happen down in the Asheville area. Maybe a mineral deposit or something was discovered there, and there's supposed to be some excavation effort, I believe, from 2025 to like, or from 2025, 2030 and on. So that could have been a concerted effort to remove people, displace people from that area by using pretty much by using the cover of a natural disaster, if it in fact was not a natural disaster but a orchestrated effort by those in power who potentially have access to technology as HARP or like those direct energy weapons. So HARP is a weather manipulation device. It's pretty much technology that manipulates weather patterns. All right, it can cause droughts, it can cause heavy storms. There have been talks that it can cause, tsunamis and hurricanes and things of that nature by changing geometric pressures, different sprays in the atmosphere, like chemtrails, to add certain medical components to the upper atmospheres in order to manipulate the weather currents. All right. There's a lot more that goes into that, but it was talks that maybe clearing this area of people could have been like the precursor to these corporations coming in to actually excavate in the ground in that area to get this resource or this mineral. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it's just something I heard, and I want to put that information out there for you just in case more comes of it. You heard it here first. But the people in that area who may have needed assistance from FEMA, they're not getting help, fam. They're really not getting help. I've heard that they've been getting that checks about like $750 per family or something like that. That's not enough to rebuild a home. That's barely enough to stay in a hotel for a while. Funds have been running out. So the reason why there is so little being done for those people at this moment, there has been conjectures of the funds have been used and allocated to help the migrants. And presidential candidate Donald Trump has brought that up. A lot of people are saying that it's potentially false information, that the money hasn't been spent, or that there is still funding and aid that's going to be put toward those people. I believe that there will be more aid put toward these people, if they just pull it out of an account or something like that, or a trust. But 100%, the funds have been spent on the migrant crisis. All right, FEMA funds have been diversified. They have been dispersed between all these different organizations, all these different programs that have just sprung up recently in order to help the migrants. And it is really costing the lives of Americans, honestly. If there isn't funding here to help us first, to help our citizens, our nationals here in the homeland first, but those funds are instead being put toward foreign interests and other foreign aid efforts. What are we paying into these programs for if they're not going to be used to help us first, and they'll be used to help everyone else first before us at the cost of American lives? That's just unacceptable, fam. Something really has to change, no matter which way you slice it, no matter which way you look at it. If these programs are being drained and being stretched so thin that there is not enough to happen if an emergency takes place on any of the coastal lines, any type of natural disaster, any type of fire, any type of devastation that will happen in a metropolitan area, a coastal area, a heavily populated area, when people are dispersed, displaced, and just relocated. And there never seems to be enough funds there, especially when we're letting all these other people who are not nationals, who are not citizens here into this country, who are not paying into those programs, who are just taking from those programs. All right. So there's a lot to unpack when it comes to this topic. There's still a lot to be seen. Breaking development. There's still more news coming out. But for the most part, I really just want you to know that you should prepare an emergency plan, escape route, extra food, gasoline, water, whatever, something that you can carry on your person. Have an escape route, have a meeting location if cell phones go out or you're unable to contact your loved ones. You should have something in plan just to make it a little bit easier, to make it a little safer, so you and your loved ones can actually be reunited and be safe and actually be able to keep in touch with each other if the worst should ever happen. And there's no aid coming to save you, fam. Like, one of the last things that you should do, one of the last things that I would ever recommend you do, is to rely on this government, the present government that we have now, to ever come help and save you when shit hits the fan, to tell you the truth. All right. So keep moving toward the light. Do what you can for your fellow man. We're all in this together, or at least most of us are. And the people who are against us, they will be exposed sooner or later. But I really just want you to stay safe, stay active. Ramadan Mubarak. This your brother Zach, Bay Indigenous American Moore. Peace.